Hello and welcome back to map 3 of Dead Center. It's just a series where I talk about all the levels in L4D 2 and go over what I think the level design might be doing and other little things that I find out and learn about along the way. Let's just jump right in. So this is a polarizing level actually, I feel like. Some people love it, some people hate it. It definitely has a very copy-pasty feel to it, I won't lie. A lot of sameness going on. But a mall is a classic zombie apocalypse space. You gotta have a mall if you're making a zombie game. Could the mall have been better? Sure, but I love this map personally. Not one of my favorites, but I would put it on the better side as opposed to the worst side. Um, but yeah, it's the Dead Center Mall. I'm sure you've all played it before, but in versus mode, this map is kind of bad because the open nature of it makes it not so great for spawning, and although there are insta
Up that
kills and
escalator.
death charges and pulls that you can do, outside of those moments, it's very much you're doing like chip damage kind of thing. Um, but there's a lot of environmental storytelling going on, at least from the narrative point of view. You can kind of tell that these spaces have been looted. People took everything out of here, like there's nothing left whatsoever, which makes it easier for the artists making this level because they don't gotta do much work. Just toss some clothes around and call it a day. Um, so it's cool. There is some cool storytelling going on in here. And I believe you do
Through
see
here.
glimpses of some Steeda stuff later on. Um, but don't quote me on that. Let's see. I do like the internet connected nature of this level. So a lot of areas are actually connected to each other, but you can't really see it all the time. Like like here you cannot see it, but there are other areas where there's grates and you can look through them, and you can see other parts of the map that you'll eventually get to. And I just love that feeling of like seeing something and you can't get to it, and then eventually you get
Down
to
this
it.
escalator.
And I think I mentioned that in the previous video too, but I love that feeling. Um, there's this little sign here, and some interesting things I've noticed with the sign. So the sign is actually used a few times throughout the level, and you see all the names of the stores, of course, and of course they have the Just for Kids. For some reason, that one is like way more accentuated than the others. It has like the name there. Other ones are just like 2026, 2020. But this guy, Just for Kids, that shit's popping off. Everyone's going to Just for Kids, I guess. So much so that they had to put it on the map. But of course, that's where the event is later on, that you break out of the windowsill and you start the horde. That's why it's there. And then you get a glimpse of where Jimmy Gibbs' junior car is. So again, we saw that on the last map, and now we get to see more of it. And there's also a poster in the safe room on this map, building that intrigue of finally getting to see Jimmy Gibbs. And Valve does something very interesting here, actually. I noticed as well as looking at the map in the editor to prepare for this video. So, yeah, as you can see, there's a big "You Are Here" icon. Now, what Valve could have done is make a unique texture for every time you see this sign. So we're here, they have a texture where there's a red dot there. And we get to here, there's a texture where there's a red dot right there. And then here, another texture. So they would have 3 textures. And they would have to increase the file size of the game. They would have to reduce the texture memory to accommodate for those. And basically the optimization of the game would go down. So Valve did a little trick where this red dot is actually a brush, and you can see that it's a 3D object, kind of. It's not actually on the surface of it. So this red dot is a brush, and they can move that brush around wherever they want. And so you only need one texture now, and you just move the dot. And so that's a nice little optimization from Valve. So cool touch right there. And you get to see some of the weird names of the places here. We got Big Fashion Girl, disco pants, and haircuts. Damn, I didn't realize disco pants were in such high demand that you need a store solely for that. And haircuts, I guess. You do all your shopping in one place. Fancy Tramp, Capels, which we just saw, was the clothing store. Lady Shoes, Leamington Diamonds, Little Pants. Okay, you have disco pants, now little pants. Perns, Game Country, Lynn's Cards and Gift, Just for Kids, Treble Times Music, Beef Boy Stew. That one always makes me laugh. I don't know why. Beef Boy Stew. I want to go to Beef Boy Stew. They should make that a real place, honestly, just so I can go there. Potato Safari. Okay, I do love a good potato. Georgia Pork Barrel, Taco Bucket, Walk on the Wild Side. Some pretty goofy names here. I wonder if some of them are like have names that are named after the Valve developers, like Leamington. I wonder if there's a developer at Valve named Leamington. And Lynn. Maybe there's someone there named Lynn. Maybe someone named Perns. Maybe someone named Capel. I don't know. You see that sometimes in levels. And we actually did that in Back 4 Blood DLC 2. In the boat shop on the first level of that DLC, you see signages just like these. But we named them after developers, including one of them was named after me. So my last name is Bailey, and there's a sign that says Bailey's Boats or Bailey Boats. And there's all different places, all different stores named after different developers. Just a fun little touch that no one who plays the game will notice, but it makes us, laugh. So, but yeah, moving on to the actual level. This map I think is loved a lot in public games of versus mode, but for some reason competitive versus players hate this map. Actually, by this map, I would say this campaign. All Dead Center is kind of disliked in competitive versus. And I'm not sure. Well, I have theories on that. I think there's a lot of the maps are not that balanced, I would say. They're kind of chaotic. Like the first map is kind of stale, like you're just walking down hallways, and assuming you have no tier 1, it's kind of not really fun. I like having a gun. I don't know about you guys. Having pistols only feels shitty. So that map is polarizing. The second map is polarizing in the sense that in competitive versus, it becomes pretty hard. Because you don't have tier 2s and you don't have a medkit spam. That map becomes a bit on the harder side. So that one's a little bit polarizing. And then this one becomes polarizing because it goes from easy, because of all these open spaces, to being annoyingly hard because of the escalator choke point, because that choke point can literally win or lose the entire campaign. And then you have a scavenge finale at the end, and versus mode players don't typically like scavenge. So I think competitive players don't like it for that reason, but public players love it for that reason as well, because I think that chaos element of all that stuff I just mentioned lends itself well to quick play in versus mode. Yeah, I just noticed something as we walk back and forth here. You may have noticed there's like this black wall that appears. When you walk here, it disappears. That's another optimization trick done by Valve. So when let's say you're way back here, like let's say you're actually like up here. Now, if that black wall were not there, you'd be able to see all the way across into this area. So from this point, the game would have to render all that area,
Evacs up ahead.
at least part of this area, and part of this area. So that would definitely have dropped your frames in that one spot. So they probably noticed that in development, and then put that black wall there that gets turned off when you cross an invisible barrier right around here. And so that just helps to save on frame rate. And we call those area portals in the editor. So a nice little optimization trick, and you don't even really notice it because you're like looking down here, shooting zombies, looking at this shit, shooting zombies in like the foreground. So stuff in the background, you don't really notice. But you also, speaking of previews of areas, this is the event area that happens later on the map, and again, it's a cool feeling of seeing a place and eventually going to it. Here we have Rook's Steakhouse. There's one up ahead. Taco Bucket there, Game Country, this one. I always wanted to go in here. I wanted to go in here so badly. Someone make a Dead Center remix where I get to go in Game Country, because I want to like shoot, like games and shit on a shelf and like see the physics objects go flying and like walk through a game store, like a GameStop kind of thing. Someone make that, please. And on the shelf there should be like a copy of Left 4 Dead that you can like shoot, or you can like maybe you shoot it and it gives you like a golden crowbar or something. I don't know, but I feel like there's potential there that we could do something with if only someone would make a Dead Center remix. please. I know there's like a Dead Center Night and Dead Center Flooded, but that's not quite the same. So you're supposed to go up this escalator here.
Up this
There's
escalator.
actually this unique hallway back here. I want to point out it's very, very far out of the way. Like, you gotta go way the fuck over here, and then you get to the bathrooms, and then you can occasionally find loot. And it always struck me as a little weird. And I mean, it's cool to have like these little secret looting spots, but this one is like so obscure that you almost never notice it because the door is closed. So it's kind of like off to the side. It's partially shrouded in darkness. And you usually go up this escalator too. You don't really go that way, so you don't even really notice it. So I thought that was something to point out. Some design language that this space uses. Basically, whenever you see an escalator, oh fuck! I just have a bind. I have a bind for a tank. Wait. Okay, I kicked it. I pressed the key on my keyboard, and that key is bound to spawning a tank for some reason. Sorry for the jump scare. Back to what I was saying. This map has a design language where wherever you see an escalator, that is usually the way forward. And you learned that first lesson back there, and now you see it again up here. So escalator, go that way. I think that's followed for just about the whole map. So go forward. Actually, there's one more thing I want to point out. There's some developer textures here. But outside the map, I think it's back in this space over here, somewhere in this area. There, in the editor, you see a bunch of cube maps out in space out here. And cube maps are things that you place in the level to generate reflections for surfaces. So you might see like my hunting rifle. I don't think I have it showing right now because I'm on low graphics, I think. But usually in the scope of hunting rifles or any object that has a shine to it, the way it figures out what to show in that shine is to the cube map that's nearest to that object, the closest cube map. So you place the cube maps all throughout the level, and that helps you generate reflections. Now there's a bunch of cube maps way out in the void here. Now why would that be? So there's two theories. My first theory is that there was a cut area, like going out into this area somewhere, and you used to go out here. And then they deleted that area, but forgot to delete the cube maps. Or, second theory, the entire map, or at least part of a map or something, was moved over here, and then for whatever reason they moved it elsewhere, and then forgot to select the cube map, so they got left behind. So I don't know which it is, but yeah, is the case of the mysterious cube maps. What is it? I don't know. And why did they move the map? I don't know that either.
Over this door.
Something to theorize about. Here we have the classic one-way drop choke point. There's a little trick you can do where, I think it's in this room here, there's office chair. You can actually shove it all the way over here, which allows you to jump back up again from the one-way drop. Useful in versus mode. You also jump up on top of here, which is a little trick you can do to avoid spit damage sometimes. So sometimes this area has a dynamic path, and this is probably the most interesting of all the dynamic paths in the whole game. So it checks how good you're doing. I believe it checks your health, and if you're doing really well, the game doesn't like that. The director gets angry, so he gives you the hard way, which is off to the right here. If you're not doing so great, you go to the left. In a versus mode, you always go left. Now, what are the differences between these two? So let's start with this one. Let's get it over with. So this area is pretty straightforward. You have some looting areas off to the side.
Search these rooms. Might be some we can use.
You go in this room here. A nice little touch here is they partially crack the door open, so you're slightly more enticed to go this way, if you even notice that. Go out here, get your health.
Let's be careful.
And now you have the event right there. So that's a cool little touch. And there's something interesting about this highlight too, around the object. It doesn't go through walls, like the other one we saw in Dead Center. I don't know why they use a different type of highlight here, but for some reason they didn't want you to see this one yet, unless you go up to the room here. So now we get to see the legendary Just for Kids. It's been hyped about by that sign. So yeah, that's the easy path. And also this med cabinet is clipping into the wall, and you can see the texture behind it. So that's the easy path. 2 more Easter egg type things in this area. I noticed in the editor there was something here at some point, a cedar ragdoll, and then something got attached to its mouth. And I can kind of piece together what it might have looked like. I guess this is a guy who killed himself, because there's a gun here and a splatter, and then there's a cedar ragdoll, supposedly, that should have been there. It's kind of dark. But yeah, I guess they cut it because it was too dark or something, I don't know. There's another little Easter eggy type thing here. You can kind of tell by the shadowing going on. That classic thing in video games where you see the brick wall that looks a little different. This one's also a breakable wall that breaks open when the event starts. Zombies will break through it and then come out through here and then ambush you out in this hallway here. This whole little restroom here is like the most obscure spot in this map. Like, you're never gonna go this way. You're gonna go up that way. But if by chance you were to go down here, there's a restroom here. Just one restroom, not even, it's just the men's restroom. Where's the women's? It's not even there. It's just men's. But yeah, there's a restroom here with a breakable wall. Not many people know that. I think in versus mode no one knows it because there's no breakable wall texture, which makes sense because you wouldn't want to break that wall open until they start the event. So it's not for players, it's only for zombies. Or only for AI zombies, not for player zombies. So that kind of sums up this area, I think. There's one more thing I want to mention. Very rarely you can get a tank that spawns outside of here while the survivors are still inside. And Valve accounted for that happening, and they put this little vent in here that you get to crawl up. Very, very slowly crawl as a tank. I don't know why they made you actually crawl through it, crouch walk. They could have made it taller so the tank can actually walk normally. But you can eventually get on top of this, the tile, and then you can drop down and avoid going through there. So that's a little trick for versus mode. The mannequins are kind of interesting too. I believe how they work is there's all sorts of, so instead of each one of these being a unique model, there's like head and then arm and then torso and then legs, and they all spawn in randomized configurations. So every time you play this campaign, this guy might look different. You come back here, his arm, whoa, okay, I didn't know that would happen. His arm might not be looking like that. Does it happen with this one too? It does. Wow, how could you make this mistake? But yeah, the mannequins are all randomly spawned and look different every time. You have some reuse here from Dark Carnival actually. This car is from Dark Carnival. The snakes, the plushies, they're all from Dark Carnival. Good reuse of Dark Carnival assets from Valve here. So all they really had to make was the Just for Kids sign, and that's kind of it. And they were done. They don't have to do anything else. Let's go back to the other path that we skipped over earlier. So this is the hard path, where if you're doing too good, you get this one. And this soda machine is not here, and this door is open.
Down
so you
here.
get to go down to the depths. You're going all the way to the first floor. There's a little ladder for effective to climb up and drop out of. You get to go through this long ass hallway. Loot rooms on the sides, bathrooms, more loot. Then interestingly, the med cabinet is actually like kind of hidden in this area. Very easily missable. If you don't feel the need to go in here, you could easily miss it. So each of the rounds has its own med cabinet right before an event.
I got a sick feeling this alarm's
And I
gonna
think from
get
a
us
level
some
design point of
attention.
view, that's a pretty good thing to do in general. Give players some respite before the hard part begins. Because if you have to go through an event and you're already getting destroyed, you have like low health, you're almost certainly going to die anyway. So the health gives you one last chance to make it through. So instead of opening up the glass, now you open up this alarm door, go through another set of doors, and now you're at the bottom, and you got to go all the way up 3 flights instead of 2 now. I know in competitive versus, they make you go down that way just to increase the difficulty, which I think is pretty interesting. So in versus mode, here, actually, I'm just gonna start this.
We gotta turn off this alarm.
You have the world's most annoying alarm. I'm gonna just turn it off real quick.
We need to turn off this alarm. Alarm off.
I wanted to do that just in case any scripting broke by me no clipping through it. Yeah, we have this infamous choke point in versus. And I call it infamous because this escalator is a dynamic prop. So there's two types of props, usually two types of props in Left 4 Dead maps, static and dynamic props. Static props are always there, they never change, the lighting on it never changes, they can't move at all, it basically can't do anything. And those are good to use because they're very optimized. Dynamic props, things can happen. They can move, they can activate animations. In the case of this escalator, it can be here sometimes or not be here. I think that one's always here, but for some reason it's a dynamic prop. Quote me if I'm wrong on that, but I know that there at least one or two of these escalators is dynamic. Anyway, the problem is this area is very glitchy from versus mode. Because sometimes when you pull someone, they'll fall all the way down here. And sometimes they don't, and they get stuck on this lip here. And the times when it does and doesn't happen seems to be somewhat RNG. And so because of how powerful this area is, this can make or break games, partially because of RNG. So that's why this is kind of hated. So there's ways around it. Like if you're a survivor, you can walk along this edge, and then makes it less likely for you to get pulled off. Like obviously, if you're walking on this thing, you're gonna get pulled down. And of course, the chargers will like crouch right here, look for a little spawn, and then go for multi-charges or go for charges off. But I found that this choke is very, very controversial. Moving forward, we gotta get to the security booth to turn off the alarm. You get to see, I think this is the final area of the map. Let me see, I think there's something else I wanted to point out. Oh, so, in versus mode 2, you can actually get outside the map kind of as a hunter. Like you can get up here. If you do like wall kicks, you can spawn up here, or not spawn up here, you can be up here and jump down. And you can do this in any skylight in the map if I remember correctly. So just a little versus trick for you. Moving forward. Have the alarm room, turning off the alarm.
We can get down here.
Get down here. We got more hallway action. Then we get to this door that's under construction. So a nice way to, from a development point of view, get a lot of space very cheaply. They already have all this construction stuff made. They just gotta throw it in. So you don't have to art out an entirely new store. Because if they had made the actual, like, let's say they made the game country thing.
There's nothing here.
And would have had to art out a whole store. And given Left 4 Dead's 1 year development time, that would have been a big ask, I imagine. So they were like, fuck it, just make the store under construction. And it works just fine, I think. Here we get more a view of Sita. Some tents, some Sita zombies here. And these are the uncommon special, common infected for this level, being immune to fire damage. You usually see them on the first map where they run through the fire. So the intended way forward is to go up there and get to the safe room. But there's this area down here I want to point out, because it's kind of there's a rare grenade launcher and chainsaw spawns that are down here. One on that side, and then one way the fuck back here. And an interesting thing I noticed is, it's kind of a little thing, but there's like this slope and like staircase thing going on. And this little like design thing is not used anywhere else in Dead Center, just in this one obscure spot. So I thought it was a little thing I noticed while looking at the editor. But yeah, if you want to come down here, get a grenade launcher, you come down here. Otherwise, this whole area is kind of a dead end. which I'm not a huge fan of dead ends. Going up here, there's a little trick you may have seen. Actually, going back to the sign real quick, we get to see the red dot trick used again. That was over there previously, now it's here. And again, they only had to move the brush and didn't have to retexture the whole thing. And you probably have seen people do this all the time in versus mode, or even co-op, where you can like pixel walk along this shit, and then, oops, I missed the jump. I would have died right there. And you get to jump there, and so you go all the way around. And I think that covers Dead Center Map 3. If you have anything else that I might have missed, leave a comment down below. But until next time, I will see you on Map 4, the Atrium Finale. See ya.